Hello, everyone. Welcome. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining CNS Connect webinar series. My name is Amy Smith, and I'm the Senior Director of Certifications and Advocacy at the ANA. And today I am joined by Meg Bowman, Allison Rue, and several guests where we're going to talk about You Do You, Succeed by Finding Your Clinical Signature. Today's presentation will be worth 1 CE for CNSs, so I'll put a survey in the chat towards the end of the presentation. If you have questions or comments, please make sure to use the Q&A and the chat function, and we'll make sure we get to them. All right, thank you so much for joining, and I'm going to turn it over to Allison.
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm so glad we're all here. It is so fun to see this panel come together, and I'm so excited to hear them share all of their wisdom with everyone today. This is a topic that we are really excited to talk about and hold some space for today. And I can't claim credit for having the idea to have this conversation. It was Meg's brilliant idea. And Meg, I would love for you to share about what inspired your idea to have this gathering and talk about this topic today.
I think I had the experience of taking a long time to figure out what I wanted to do and feel comfortable with that. And during that time, man, I spent a lot of money, doing things that I thought I was supposed to be doing. And at one point I was using, I can't even remember the software, but I thought for sure I was going to be doing group stuff. And so I got software to book groups that is only used by yoga studios. And I was like paying for that every month. And it took a long time for me to really realize that, it's okay that I don't do things like other people and figure out what it meant for me and how I wanted to work. And when I did, it was like this huge relief. So I just thought it would be interesting. We have people that work in very different spaces in very different ways. Thought it'd be interesting to figure out how they got there.
Yeah, I love this. I love this topic, and it's something that I very much relate to. I think there are a lot of things. I can't tell you how many EMRs I went through before I found the right one that fit, and how many trainings I signed up for before I found the things that spoke to my heart and also to my brain. So, Meg, can you kick off this panel and let us get started and meet everybody and hear their stories?
Yeah, I think really the too long didn't read of all this is figure out what your why is and then put it into place. So I'd love to just start with why people went to nutrition school. Like what was the impetus behind that, and what were you hoping to do or hoping to get out of it? Could we start with I'm just going to name in the order of my screen, so we're going to go Justin, Alana, Dana, and then Jennifer. Okay.
Thank you very much for having me. This is great. I appreciate the time. For myself, I've been a registered nurse for about 17 years. So I knew that I wanted to continue and pursue my education at the master's level. Initially, I was in a nurse practitioner program, and that's what I thought I was going to do. That's what so many of my friends and colleagues did. But there was something that was a little bit different for me about that. I enjoyed the science behind it. I certainly enjoyed the people. But there was something just a little bit different. I longed for more of a preventative care approach. And so that's kind of what directed me toward kind of going for my nutrition degree. My family and I, we were growing at the time, and I really enjoyed the wellness and the clean eating aspects. I also liked some of the nutrition policy that seemed to be kind of coming up at the time. So that's kind of what I did. And I, jumped all in 2017 and went full time, graduated in 2019, and I've been chipping away ever since. So it's really something that speaks to me. Having this relationship with Meg and Allison and the folks that I've gotten to meet has really been amazing. So I'm really happy to be here.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And ditto. Alana.
Yes. So if you know Allison's story at all, some of our story intersects a little bit. I have a background as a performer, and I went to my undergraduate degree is in vocal performance. So I did musical theater and opera and all that wonderful stuff. Moved to New York, started to pursue that, did some things, and quickly realized that that was a very, how should I say it? It was a very worthwhile, but wasn't really in me to pursue that full time for the rest of my life, even though I thought it was up until that point. And so I'm in New York and I'm waiting tables as one does. And I was like, what in the world could I do with my life that doesn't have to do with performing? And I came to the conclusion that nutrition was it, because I had a very unhealthy relationship with food at the time. And of course, you just get your education in it and you know all the secrets, right? So I got my health coaching certification, quickly realized that that certification was void of a lot of science. And so I pursued my master's in nutrition, and it's been a wonderful journey of learning so much about myself, but then also being able to translate that to like other people and their struggles with food and movement and their bodies, and like converge the two of like my love for the art that is involved with all of this, the art of working with individuals and groups. And so that's my why for why I went to nutrition school.
You know, I had no idea that you were a voice major, but holy moly, does that resonate now that I know that? You literally help people find their nutrition voice. Like, it's all resonating in my brain now. I understand.
I love that. I'm going to steal that. Thank you, Meg.
Please do. Please do. All right, Dana, you're up next, and you're telling them about Australia. I'm just telling you, because if you don't, I will. So
in my introduction. And yeah, I'll tell them about Australia. I'm Dana Cruz. Hi, I have been a research scientist for probably my whole life, and I'm full-time research scientist at the University of Washington, and I am also trying to get my 1,000 hours in my nutrition. I went to my master's degree. I went to nutrition graduate school after I read a book by Dr. Dale Bredesen that talked about how you could lessen or lessen the. Sorry, I'm at Disneyland right now, and I just am like so overwhelmed right now. So I apologize. Anyway, so lessen or reverse the signs of Alzheimer's. And so it runs in my husband's family. And so I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these different ways that are easy lifestyle changes that you can use with nutrition to reverse these. And so that's why I went to graduate school, just to be able to get this information and share it with other people, because I just thought it was fascinating. And I started graduate school in 2018 or 19. And so yeah, I'm also chipping away at it as I do a full-time job. So yeah, it's just been really interesting to see the science behind nutrition and how they are so related. So and I did go to Australia in August, and I gave
you were invited.
I was invited to give a talk, a nutrition talk in Australia for a conference, and it was probably my third presentation, and I rocked it. I thought I did so well. I came out of it so positive. And Meg, I don't think I've talked to you since then, but have I? Anyway, it was great. And just the little bit of information that I could pass on to this group of people was just, it made my heart so full that because I have imposter syndrome a lot of times, but the fact that it's just this easy bit of information that you can share to someone can change lives. So it was really exciting. So
would you mind sharing your particular niche, because it's so unique?
So my niche, which has kind of evolved, and I realized that this is my passion, is to work with widowed community. And so it is something that is near and dear to my heart, because I lost my first husband when I was 31. And so I've been a part of this widowed community for the last 15 years, actually. And I'm very active in volunteering for them. And so it just made sense that I have this information that I can share with them, because we talk so much about mental health when you're dealing with grief, but you don't really talk about the physical health, and physical aspect of grieving really impacts your body. And if you can help that by, changing your nutrition. And I mean, it's as simple as sleep and stress. And like, we're so high on stress levels when you're grieving. And so if I can help give a little bit of information to this group of people, and it's just amazing because it's not anything that I really thought about when I was newly widowed. And so I just have found that this is like the group of people that speaks to me. I know their excuses and why they don't want to do anything. And so, because I was there too. And so it's a lifestyle, like it's a lived event that I have done. So I found it to be the perfect group for me to work with nutrition.
Yeah, so unique. Thank you for sharing. I hope you don't mind that I'm like calling you out, but I'm not going to let you not talk about it because it was impressive. It was impressive. All right, Jennifer, you are up next.
All right. Hi, I'm Jennifer Heelskamp. Prior to going to nutrition school, I worked in corporate America for like 12, 14 years. I did a lot of different things, most of which fell under some kind of operations bubble. I kind of got to the point where I just wasn't really engaged with my work anymore. And I didn't really feel like going and doing that at another company was going to be that exciting either. And so I kind of did some searching in terms of like, what else would I want to do as a career? I had digestive issues for like 16 years and I read all of the books at the time on all of that. And I'd seen, doctors and RDs and stuff and like nothing ever really worked for me. So I've always kind of had this interest in health and wellness and trying to feel better. And then had like some family and friends that had some health issues and a lot of that boiled down to like preventative care. And so when I was trying to figure out what else I wanted to do, I was like, well, these are areas like health is important to me and it's so interesting to me. And so I was like, that's kind of what prompted me to go back and get my master's in nutrition. So yeah, that's how I came to be here.
Allison, I think it's yours. Thank you.
So I am curious about your current why. Why are you here now? So we talked about your why of what brought you to nutrition. What is your current why that keeps you here and keeps you doing this work? How has it changed? You can go in the same order.
Okay, I was going to ask that.
Thanks, Justin.
When I first graduated, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I've always worked for another company, so I've never been an entrepreneur. I've never ran my own business. So, I mean, that was kind of like a wow, how is this going to work out? So, I think I did what a lot of people did is I downloaded all the IFM handouts and I just handed them to people. Oh, you have inflammation? Here's an inflammation handout. You had, so that's how I kind of started. And I felt it was, appropriate as I was kind of getting some of my, time under my belt, so to speak. And over time, I just really found that it was really the relationship with the person that I was kind of trying to form. So over the past few years, it's really been more about that and trying to just really understand people from that behavioral aspect and understand what their why is as well. So my practice is certainly much different than it was originally, and I'm really happy with the direction it's going in.
Can you give us a little bit of an example of how it looks different from what you expected it was going to be when you were coming out of school and what it is now?
Sure. Again, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to be doing. I just finished up with, all the sciences and, all the group presentations that we had done. And I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do, but I knew that I really enjoyed learning and trying to help people. And as a nurse, that's kind of what I did. I've been in home care for a really long time in public health. So education was something that kind of came second nature to me. And so that's kind of what I thought I was going to do. Just kind of sit down, help people, give them some handouts, and then learn with them. But now I would say that sometimes I don't even write down the notes anymore, and I'm learning that I'm just doing a lot more listening, and I'm just trying to really understand what their values are, and kind of program something together with them. And I think people really appreciate that a lot, that they're part of the plan, that you're not just giving them something prescriptive.
You're being with them. And I imagine you're an incredible soap note taker just from your experience in the nursing field already. So you probably can rattle that off pretty with some ease. That's wonderful. It's wonderful to hear how that has grown and just connected for you. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Lana, you're next. So what's your why now, and how has that shifted? I know it shifted a lot.
It has
And-
shifted a lot. It has
Yeah.
shifted a lot in I think the overall, like what I'm doing day to day, but I think it's deepened in so many ways. Like the severity of it, I would say, is like so much more known to me. I'm now a mom. I was not a mom when I went to nutrition school. So I have a almost 4-year-old and a 1-year-old who will be 2. And I'm just thinking so much about their relationship with food. And I'm thinking about mine and what led me to the path that I eventually went down, and how can we prevent that? And I keep seeing more and more teenagers and then the moms of those teens, and how this whole like belief around food is just so pervasive, and it's affecting kids younger and younger. And it's super scary. And I also just think about how could I have reached my younger self? And then I look at my kids, and it gets real deep and kind of teary, honestly, if I think about it too much. But that's my biggest why. I am currently, I have a Pilates studio and my nutrition all in one space that I just opened in September. And I'm a Pilates reformer teacher. And I think about the movement piece too, which is a big part of my journey. And it started just like that: stop eating and start moving more. And all of it was very disordered. And so I really seek to like make both nutrition and movement and body image, all of these things, like very sustainable, very much about being about health forward and not aesthetic forward. And so that's my current why, my big why. And that's where I'm at.
We've known each other a long time, and I try to imagine almost 10 years ago, did you ever picture that you were going to have the movement be part of your practice?
You know, it's funny, when I had done my health coaching, at the very end, I had done this training. This lady locally created this fusion workouts called Patayo, Pilates, Tai Chi, and yoga. It was like this whole fusion thing. And it was fun. And I did it because I was like, okay, more hours of like in this realm of health and wellness. And I taught a whole lot and ran my body down quite a bit as I was health coaching and telling people to get smaller. And so now looking back, I'm like, it totally makes sense. It's very full circle that I started in like a kind of a yoga studio, health coaching. And now here I am with my own space and doing fitness and nutrition. So yeah, it's funny
So
that way.
exciting. It's so beautiful. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Dana, curious to hear if your why has shifted and what that looks like in how you're practicing, and if you thought it was going to be different when you first graduated compared to now.
Yeah, so when I first graduated, I thought I came out of school, it's very black and white. Like, this is, everyone needs to lose weight, everyone needs to be helped with diabetes and all of this stuff. And so I thought that's really what my practice was going to be, even though I had really no experience with it at all. But I thought it was just going to be, in and out, getting people. And then obviously what my focus is now is just so much more deep, because it's not black and white. I mean, there's just so many emotions, which I didn't realize in school, that nutrition and feelings and emotions are all really tied together. And so that was really eye-opening to me. And so now I feel like I can hold space for so many more people now in this nutrition space as well. So it's much different than when I came out of school, and I'm really happy with how it's progressed. And I didn't see myself dealing with this niche, even though it was all around me. I just didn't think that it was appropriate. Like I just, like I said, I thought nutrition was black and white. And so I'm just, I'm glad I've evolved to this part of it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Jennifer, what about you? What's shifted for you, and what's been a surprise?
Similar to Dana too, I feel like coming out of school, things were very black and white, and like we all not look a certain way, but there's not a lot of emphasis. There's not much emphasis on health in diet culture, right? In our culture in general. And so I think one thing is I used to be like, oh yeah, we need to be eating this way or not eating these things. And like, that's what you need to do to be healthy and live longer and all of these things. And then coming out of school, it's actually like, I love when I have clients that come and I get, they're like, oh, I just thought you were going to tell me like what I shouldn't be eating. And I love being able to say like, that's not what we're doing here. Like the goal is that you eat as many different foods as you can eat and you eat things you enjoy. Food should be pleasurable, and like how to fit that into their lifestyle and like how to make them feel good about their choices they're making. And like how food doesn't need to be good or bad, and just like kind of helping people change how they think about food in the way that I've changed how I think about food. And so I think when I first went in, it was like, I really want to help people feel better, which I think I obviously still want to do that. I think we all probably want to do that. But I think the way I go about it, how I thought that was going to be is different than it is.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I think something that really resonates in what you all shared, this shift from thinking that we were going to educate, recommend, and then assess for compliance is so like not what we actually do. It's so much deeper, it's so much more connected, it's so much more organic, truly integrative and functional, and it's so fun. I love that we have the scientist, the artist, the clinician, the person who made a complete shift from corporate America into holding space for humans. And it's so cool because that is such a beautiful integration of what we really do as CNSs. So there's fun speed bumps along the way. Meg, you're up next.
Bless you, Allison. If people actually did what I told them to do, like I would be delighted. I'm not gonna lie. It just doesn't work. It's I don't wanna. It's just weird how they don't. I don't understand. I make really good recommendations. No, I'm kidding. So anybody can answer. We're not going to go in order. I think the thing that I really want to address is how did you get away from thinking you had to be like other people? So I have done a few things that were big ones. I first, when I got out of school, I did a membership model, which if those of you that know me know that I specialize in mental health, and I was assuming it would be like a gym membership. When people, like a lot of people sign up for the membership, but nobody comes, except when you do that in a mental health niche, everybody comes. My bad. But everybody was doing memberships at the moment. So that was one fail of mine. The other was thinking that I could do meal planning. As it turns out, I can't do that for me. So I shouldn't do that for other people. But that was also kind of a painful learning to me when I was like, why is this so hard? Oh yeah, because it's just not my thing. I'd love to hear from anybody where you felt like you should do something and then realized, that ain't my jam. This is not for me. Does anybody have an example? Jennifer, you want to go?
Yeah, I can start. So I think for me, a big one has been social media. So I don't really use it much personally. And so I really didn't want to use it professionally, but I felt like friends from school and friends from incubator, like everyone's like, oh, I'm doing this on social media. And it's just like, I felt like there was all this pressure on me to be like, oh my God, I should be doing this too. But it just made me like, there's good uncomfortable, right? That, you need to do this, going to help you. And then there's stuff that's like, this just isn't me. This just isn't me. So I'm not going to do it. And so I think that has been a big one for me of kind of being like, you know what, I can do this without having to be on social media. And so I need to know that I'm okay not doing that. And like, people are great at it and good for them, but not for me.
Anybody else have an example of that?
I agree with Jennifer. Oh, go ahead, Justin. Go ahead. No, so I agree with Jennifer about the social media. I felt like everybody was doing social media and I cannot promote myself either. And so I don't do it personally and so professionally. And so what I ended up doing is getting on insurance panels. And so that was kind of like, so I have some kind of clients that come from insurance and I don't have to promote myself at all. It's just already in the directory. So it was perfect for me. Even though there was a lot of people who said, maybe you don't want to do insurance, but it's worked really great for me outside of my word of mouth community. So, I mean, insurance has been really great for bringing clients in without having to do social media.
Yeah. And I got to say, I'm going to come to you in just a second, Justin, but I got to say, Dana, like, your specific circumstance, you have a full-time job outside. You can't spend that time trying to pull in clients. And by the way, for folks on the call, she's still a CNS candidate. and figured out how to take insurance in her
But I
state.
found a biller, so I don't really have to do anything now. So I just like pass it on to people.
But that's a great example of really making this work for you, you know, not doing what everybody does, but figuring out a way in your particular circumstance to really make it work. Justin, what
And
you
as much time
got?
with
No, go ahead, Dana, please. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I just said it's worked for me to be able to pass off other things so that I can have as much possible time with my clients. And so, because that's ultimately what I'd like to do. So
Justin?
I want to hear more about Dana and how she's, billing insurance, but that's for another time. For me, it was more about my family as well. Like Alana, my wife and I have 6 kids, so it was like I was really stretching myself thin, trying to make my hours be available as much as possible, while still working a full-time nursing job. So I really had to kind of just fine tune and figure out what exactly I wanted to do and how I wanted to make myself available. So I wasn't stretching myself too thin, because I was kind of doing that. I was kind of being a yes man a little bit. And sure, I can see you at 9 o'clock at night. I can see you here. I can see you on a Sunday, So I've learned a lot about that process.
And I think that is what people really do feel like when they start this job, is that, oh my gosh, I have to have time available, like whenever the clients might need to come. And the reality is, if they want to see you, like, they change in their schedule. It's okay. Yeah. Allison?
Something that
Oh, go ahead,
comes-
Alana. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Something that comes to mind to me is not seeing people a la carte. Like, I don't like seeing people for just 1 session or 2. I want them to commit to 6 months. And so finding that for myself was really important, because, you can accept the one-offs and that kind of thing, but they never gain traction. So it doesn't feel good for me. And then I know it doesn't feel good for them, because they feel like they invested in something that didn't really pan out because they didn't change behaviors. So that was a big one for me.
Phenomenal example of that. I also did that, but from a different reason. For me, it was ADHD. Like, I can't have this thing where people drop in. I can't track them. I have to read their entire file again. I need to see them every week or every other week. Otherwise, it doesn't work in my brain. And so I greatly incented the packages and made the a la carte kind of expensive to incent them to work in the way that I needed to work. Yeah. Allison, do you have an example of this? Now I'm going to be nosy and call you out.
I have so many, even I have big picture ones and little ones. And I'm thinking of some little ones that I remember feeling pressured, like in that first appointment, I had to deliver just a book, like an essay on their lives, and personalize it and make them feel, I think the objective of making sure you're holding space and helping someone feel like heard and feel special and taken care of, and like you're their concierge. Those are values that still show up in my work, but they show up in my work in ways that are even more client-centered than like, here is 50 pages of recipes and information about micronutrients and all this kind of stuff that they don't need. Feeling like I had to prove that I knew enough, right, to work with them. But really, I want to know more about them. It's not about me. And then other little things that are so funny that now I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think anyone ever talked about this in school. But like, people coming, especially because I'm in California, so I would attract a lot of folks who would work primarily with complementary and alternative practitioners, and they would say, this other person recommended this probiotic for me. Can you put that in full script? Can I keep taking it? And I would just say, oh yeah, sure, I guess, like, of course, because I don't want to, if someone else said it was good, I didn't have the confidence, I think, starting out to be like, yeah, I'm not going to give that to you because I don't think it's actually something you need to be taking. So I think some of those things, it's okay to trust your own assessment, and to not feel like you have to perform care, and truly engage care. So
Can I respond to one of those? The
Yeah.
binder thing. I find that hilarious because pre-COVID, I am right now in my home office. Here we are. But pre-COVID, I actually had an office out and about, and I had multiple clients come in walk into my office, lay the binder they got from some other practitioner down on my coffee table and say, how the f am I supposed to do this? It happens so frequently, but I do think that's how schools train us, right? And I think it is a very good thing that they do, because your instructors need to see the whole of what you're going to do for somebody. But man, it really sets you up to kind of have bad retention.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it disconnects the client from
Yeah.
being able to learn their own skills and connect to themselves. So we also have a great question in the Q&A that we will address. We're going to make sure that there's time for that question a little later on, because I think we might get there with some of our next few questions. It's a beautiful question about black and white thinking. So before we get there, I was curious to hear, when you look at how other people run their practices versus how you run your practice, what do you see as being different? And specifically how you've corresponded to your own niche, because we all have our different personalities and styles as nutritionists. It doesn't mean one way is wrong or bad. It just means that they're different. And that sometimes aligns with the niche that you tend to be working with. It sometimes aligns with your own lifestyle and your own personality. So when you see how you're different, I'm curious about how you're different in terms of how you practice. And then we're also going to ask you a follow-up question about how you've accommodated your own personal needs through all this. So not just your clients, your niche needs, but your own personal needs in how you practice. What does that look like for you? Sorry, Jennifer, do you mind going first again? Let's go backwards.
Sure. I feel like I don't know how other people run their practices a lot, so I have a hard time like comparing maybe. What I've kind of found is I don't have a niche, and that was kind of another should. I feel like I know a lot of people who instantly kind of knew what they wanted to do. And then I really thought I wanted to focus on gut health because I find it so interesting. But then, you start working on people with like disordered eating, and like, that's super interesting. And then it's like, oh, I have prediabetes and I can help people with this. So I actually don't have a niche, and I'm okay with that right now. For a while, it kind of bothered me, but I was like, you know what? I really find all these things interesting. And looking back with my like career history, I was in a lot of different roles over the years. And I think I kind of like the having different things. So I don't have a niche, but I think part of that is I know that I have to allow myself time in a day, because I'm going to be meeting with people that have different things going on. And so, if I'm meeting with everybody that sort of has, I'm meeting with a bunch of IBS clients, it's like, that's all in your brain, right? You have all that kind of knowledge up there. But when you're having a conversation with someone who's having like thyroid issues, and then I'm talking about like postpartum depression, and then we're talking about IBS, like that's kind of different ways to go about sometimes my thought process. And so I have to give myself time. I have to like look and see who I'm seeing, give myself time to kind of prepare for that, based on what we're going to be talking about, and on research if it's something I don't do a lot of. Alana mentioned packages. I do packages, but I also do a la carte stuff for people. I've kind of toyed around with not doing that, but I think I've had a few clients that really just needed like 3 sessions to they were pretty well up on what they needed to do, and really just kind of needed some extra information and some motivation, and they're, can go off and do that on their own. So I guess that's probably another difference.
Well, Jennifer, we actually just got a question that I think connects to what you just said. How did you decide for you, so that you could really thrive as a practitioner? How did you decide to structure your packages, the number of appointments a client has, like what to include in terms of labs and what to include in the package and everything like that?
So like a standard package, I would do 12 sessions, and they get, email access. They can text me. People rarely do that, frankly, which is nice. I was kind of worried people were going to be doing a lot of that. There's not, it's usually email or through the portal or something. Practice better, they'll send a message. And I always give people like recipe packets, because everybody loves getting some new ideas for food. I kind of include stuff like that. I do one with GI where part of the price is included for a like a GI effects or GI map, one of those. And so I will like include that in a pricing, but not everybody needs the labs. And so I don't like as a standard, it's not part of like my standard package because most people, I don't take insurance right now. It's like most people can get a lot of labs they need through their doctor or insurance company is going to pay for it. And it's not unless it's something specialized that I feel like maybe a test would come to mind, like, okay, your regular doctor's not going to do this or won't do this. So maybe we would do something at that time.
And how did you don't have to, I don't want anybody to be sharing numbers because I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but how did you make the decision about what your price point would be? What was that process like for you?
I struggled with that for a long time. I think I started off cheap. And then in talking to other people, it was kind of like, this is what I'm charging. This is what I'm charging. I'm in a city, I'm in Chicago. Like people pay more money for some things. So I feel like I took that into account. I do offer a sliding scale. I have a couple clients right now on Social Security and I don't charge them what I charge other people. So I think having a sliding scale can be nice sometimes if people that can't afford to work with us otherwise. But yeah, I kind of looked at what I wanted to make and then factored in, I think sometimes I'll do a half-hour session with someone. And it kind of feels like a lot for half an hour, but really there's like prep that goes into that. There's follow-up that goes in after that. There's me doing research and things of that nature. So I feel like they're paying for 30 minutes of FaceTime, but they're getting all this knowledge that I'm gaining in other times to help them as well.
Thank you so much. Dana, can we go to you to hear about how you have built what your niche needs and also designed your practice to meet what you need as a human?
So for my niche, I have, which is probably very different than most other people, how they practice, is that my niche needs a lot of talk time. So my sessions are longer, where I usually do a 30-minute session for some people, I give them an hour at least. I mean, because they just want to talk. And so that, and then I've also, very graceful is that, if they cancel like within less than 48 hours, a lot of times it's within a couple hours before our meeting, I let them do that. I don't let everybody do it, but with my group of people, with this population, I mean, I always told people, write your appointments in pencil so that if you don't feel good to go, you can erase it and then it'll be fine. And so I do live by that. And I let my people do that. So I am very flexible and, I don't charge them. And I do offer them longer periods of time to talk. And then my packages for them are very cheap. I give this group of people, because sometimes when you've lost your person, finances are not always easily come by, right? So I do give them very good prices for this, for working together. And I hope that they want to come for 4 months. We work on it. So, and then I do have my insurance people who, it's much more structured. They're, not as emotionally charged as my normal niche of people. So, regular kind of appointments with them. And so how I've made this all work for me is because I do work full time and I feel burned out a lot of times by working 40 hours a week and then doing this. So I do really try to see one person a day. So I don't do multiple people on days. And I mean, really, I have very few clients at a time anyway. I think most of the times I have maybe 3 all at one time. And so I do put people on different days so that I can focus mainly on them. And if it's doing research or anything like that, so I give myself enough time for that, and then I can turn it off, because otherwise, if I keep doing more and more and more, and then on top of my work and then on top of my family, it's just too much. So I do try to give myself, and it's been a long process, but I do really try to turn everything off and just be done with it and just only focus on one person a day, and and we make it work that way. Does that answer everything that you asked me?
Yeah, thank you so much. That's so helpful. Alana, I'm wondering how this looks for you.
It's evolving all the time. As I am, and as my kids change ages and have different needs, and like my oldest is in preschool, so it's from 9 to 12. I mean, what can you get done between 9 and 12? I want to know. So I think the 6-month package thing is like just my mainstay, just because the people that I see, even if they think that they only need 3 months, we're undoing beliefs. We're getting deep. Like things need time to like marinate. And we really have to go there. And honestly, even 6 months is sometimes not enough time. So really, really, I hone in on that. And then as far as for me, my days look very scattered, but I think that's just the nature of my life right now, and also teaching. So I like not having just like full days of clients and sitting in front of a computer. I like teaching a class and then having a couple clients, and then teaching a private, and then having a client, and then teaching another class. It just feels really good to me because I just keep like my body moving, and my my juices flowing, and I feel more like present in client sessions too, because I think I especially if it's a heavier client relationship, it just feels like heavy and I need to move some things, move my lymph, So that's where I'm at with that. And it's ever evolving, and I'm growing, and I need more staff and all the things. So it's going to continue to change, but that's honestly how I like it.
It's so awesome, Alana. I'm so excited you've built this. It's so exciting. Justin, you are up.
Thank you. Yeah, I think going back to what you guys were talking about before about when I first graduated, I thought, medical nutrition therapy was going to be my jam, learning about diabetes and cancer and arthritis and all these things all the time, all day long as a nurse. I thought that's what I was going to do, is I was going to transition people from drugs to food. And I didn't know a lot about supplements, because in nursing, there's not really a lot of supplements that you get to learn about or prescribe or doctors prescribe. So for me, I thought I was really going to dive into that and learn a lot about getting people off of medication and moving toward that piece. As time has kind of evolved, I too have tried to use my family as a means to be a motivator for me, so I can be with them a lot. So I'm currently in a wellness center. It's actually a club gym for wrestling as well. So 2 of my boys wrestle there. They're there 4 or 5 days a week. And my other kids, a couple of my girls, they're in there for other strength and conditioning classes. So I thought I was going to be, I really enjoy fitness. I really enjoy being, around kids, and I've done a lot of coaching. So I thought I was going to be like the gym coach, the nutrition coach for all these wrestlers. So I'm kind of involved in that a little bit, but it's mostly the parents who are learning more for themselves, which I really do appreciate, because then they're helping to safely and correctly advocate for their kids on the way they should be eating leading up to a meet or whatever in the off season. So yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That is it's been so fun to talk about those clients together. So thank you so much for sharing about that. So I'm going to pivot back to Meg in a second. I would love to answer a question from the chat. Show of hands, who charges a late cancellation fee to at least some of your clients? Anybody charge a late cancel fee? Okay, yeah. It's something that involves planning and work, and it can make people uncomfortable. So I think it's something you got to figure out for yourself, and that's okay if you're still figuring that out. Okay, so Meg, we got a question in the chat that I would love for you to take, if that's okay. Cynthia's question.
Oh, what with the restrictions on where CNSs can practice, where are people practicing? What types of visits are you conducting? I gotta admit, this question. So Allison and I both are co-owners of Clinicians Incubator. So we do CNS supervision. We also have a NBHWC approved health coaching program. This exact question is what we realized was happening 2 years ago. And so that is why we launched Nested Health Coach certification, because we realized that CNSs were really, really, really wanting the ability to practice in 50 states. in some way, shape, or form. And it also gives you that root cause behavior change too. So I don't know. There are some people on the call that are in the program right now. If either of you want to talk, if that played a role in your decision to do that, you're welcome to. I won't call you out.
Yeah, I'm happy. I wanted to do the coaching program because I feel like, again, coming out of school, everything's very prescriptive, and sometimes that's need that, and sometimes that works really well for people, and other people have a really hard time with that. And I think I felt like I was struggling with certain personality types, maybe to help motivate them to make changes. And so the coaching model is so different. You know, as a clinician, it's like, here are the supplements, here are the foods, here are the lifestyle things we're going to do. And as a coach, it's like, tell me about this. Tell me about this. Like, you're not being prescriptive. You're not directing them in any way. It's really just trying to help them kind of do some introspection and figure out what they need. And then you kind of help them figure out how to go about it. So it's two like sides of very different coins, but they mesh really well together. And I think I've been using some of these coaching tools with clients that I have that are struggling to form new habits and make changes. I think the coaching part has been very helpful for me for that.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Justin, please.
I'm going to say I too am in the same program with Jennifer. And my family and I are going to be moving from upstate New York to North Carolina in the next 8 months. So for us, for me, I want to be able to make sure that I can practice in New York. I know there's a little bit different restrictions in North Carolina, so I'm working towards that. But I also have family and friends and other clients that, you know, live in other states. And I always worry and wonder, you know, do we have to do this kind of behind the scenes, or is it okay if I have this as an open practice with you? Because, you know, what if you live in a state that might be not approved for this, you know? So for this, along with the behavioral aspects that I'm learning, the communication skills that I'm learning through the certification program, being nationally certified, it's pretty empowering.
Allison, is it you or me? I've lost the thread.
We had, it's you, and then we have a really beautiful question that I'm excited to also check in after
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Well, let's just bottom line it here. Oh, did I just use a coaching term? I did. Ah, look at that. I actually didn't try to. If you had to give somebody advice about how to really let go of what other people do as normal and really like get deeply wedded to what works best for them. You guys give such good examples today. I can't even. What would that piece of advice look like? Does anybody have a piece of advice on how you do that? Like how you give yourself permission to do that?
One way that I did it is at least like niche down at some point was who do I want to talk to? And sometimes you just feel so drained after talking to certain people. And then you find that there are trends to like what that person is like or the things that they're struggling with. And you're like, no, thanks. I would rather save my energy that way. So for me, that's been a big part of it. And just like feeling good about it's okay to continue to pivot. Like it's okay to be entrepreneurial in that way and to not just stick to something because you were told that that's the way you do stuff. It really is more fun if you can like pivot and embrace the pivot. That's what I would say.
Love it. Love it. Anybody else?
I like the embrace the pivot. Mine's sort of similar. I think just judging what feels right for you. Like you all know yourselves, you know, like some things make us uncomfortable, like, you know, cold reaching out to other practitioners in Chicago made me very uncomfortable, but it was like something I knew I needed to do. And I've made relationships from that. Whereas like the social media thing just really never sat right with me. And so I didn't do it. So it's kind of just like trusting your instinct. And like Alana said, I mean, there's a lot of pivoting. You'll find stuff you like, stuff you don't. And I think as you get more confident in your abilities, you'll also become more confident in the choices you're making, and you're not going to be like second guessing yourself, kind of, which is what I felt like I did when I started out.
Anyone else care to share? Piece of advice? No? Okay, great. Allison, did you want to do your question?
Yeah. So we got a question that it sounds like it was inspired by some of what you were sharing earlier about black and white thinking. And so I'd love to hear if anyone, you know, I invite you to share if you have encountered black and white thinking of your own, how do you work on that when it comes to this work? And then how do you help clients with that too? Anybody have any thoughts or ideas?
I can start, I guess. I think as far as my own black and white thinking, I think the more I've worked with people and just like life experiences, just having empathy for people and just kind of like giving them space to talk. I think a lot of people we see go through maybe traditional medicine routes and are not given the relief that they are seeking, and they're kind of brushed off. And so I think a lot of times just people having space to talk. And so I think I've gotten better about not talking as much and giving people space to talk and just not judging anything. We have a lot of hidden biases and judgment around foods and health, and kind of just getting that out of your head. Like, just because someone's in a larger body doesn't mean they're unhealthy. Just because someone's skinny doesn't mean that they are. And just kind of getting rid of any of those, kind of like really trying to work on any biases that you maybe know that you have. I think for clients, it's sort of similar, like giving them space. And I think a lot of people just sometimes need to hear, like, it's okay for you to have ice cream after dinner. You know, like it's almost like the nutritionist is saying, like, I can do this. It's like giving people the ability to make the decisions that feel good for themselves, and getting out of that like good and bad food space, and trying to help people feel like, oh, how does it make you feel when you eat it? Physically, emotionally, whatever, and kind of getting people to think about it in a different way, as opposed to just like, I'm not supposed to be doing this. Kind of challenging their questions, challenging their thought process in a very gentle way, and also asking a lot of questions to kind of figure out why maybe they think that way, so that you can help them kind of, again, uncover their own thinking about why they're feeling that way, and kind of help them branch out of it a little bit.
Can I be obnoxious and actually answer this question myself? Is that okay?
Yes, please.
You know, my answer to this is that the lack of the movement away from rigidity for us as practitioners is what a CNS is all about. Because our job is to do personalized nutrition. That's literally our job. That's literally, I think, the board's tagline. Amy can correct me on this, but it's literally our job to make everything bespoke to the client, which means we don't get to be rigid. The client might need a little bit of rigidity. That's okay. I definitely have had clients that are on the spectrum or have certain things where, like, we do need to be a little rigid, and that's okay. But in my brain, it's more about like, how do I keep from being rigid? That's just what a CNS does, because we're responsible for completely personalizing the approach to the client. So I feel like I'm code switching all day long. And it's fun. It's what keeps it interesting, right?
It makes me think of, I think through ABCs, always be curious and always be closing, but always be curious. And, you know, this is the cool part of our job, is that there's no perfect, you're done, you learned everything, right? Every day we get to learn something new about our clients, about the field of nutrition, about ourselves. And if we're constantly just putting out the question of what else can I understand, explore, learn, evaluate if I want to shift my own relationship to that food. I have a pretty like rock solid healthy relationship to food at this point in my life. And I realized last week I haven't cooked a recipe with white rice in it, and I can't remember when. And so this week I was like, we're gonna make something with white rice. Let's do that. You know what? I might then feel more comfortable talking about that with a client too. So there's always ways that we can be surprised by things in our own work. Anyone else have anything that they found has been important to them that you'd like to share?
I think personally, the rigidity part of it and learning how to live in the gray I think when I could go out to eat and not worry if somebody's going to see me that is like nutrition related, and I could be eating whatever I want to be eating, and I wasn't worried about judgment or, you know, whether they would think one thing or another. Anyway, it just comes to mind because I think about how rigid we become with diets, and especially with diet history, and most people that think in black and white thinking were taught that way from a very young age, that things are good or bad. And so like going into all that with them is, I think, a really important tool and part of the process. But I think for ourselves too, remembering that, like, you know, we're nutritionists, but we can have fun and eat and like be normal people when we go out. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. It's just so freeing. And it's also reminds you that like life is not black or white.
Exactly. And we have all this training in nutrition science, as well as behavioral science and coaching skills potentially. And I just want to reflect. I love what you just said, because it made me realize this week I did the white rice experiment. I tried a new magnesium threonate. I'm trying a new broccoli seed greens powder thing, you know, because we get to stay curious and explore all these new things that can serve us, and how can we help our clients harness that for themselves, right? Harness that for themselves.
And will we be sharing the broccoli seed thing?
I'm not sure how I feel about it yet.
Oh, one of those. Okay, no, then no.
I'm going to stick it out for another week and see how, yeah.
Well, thank you everybody so much. I so appreciate all four of you. Delighted to hear how things are going. I'm going to quick put a link if anybody's curious. We do have open house week starting tomorrow. You're welcome to join us. And thank you so much, Amy, for having us.
Well, thank you. This was great. I put the CE survey in the chat, so CNSs, make sure you complete that so you can get your 1 CE. And we have one CNS Connect webinar left that is going to be next week. That is, I forgot the topic. It's with Ashley and Megan, and it's how to review medical labs with nutrition in mind. So that'll be our last one of the year. So make sure you catch that one, and all the recordings are on the website if you've missed any that happened this year. Thank you all so much. Have a great
Thanks.
evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.